This is talk show host Charles Goyette from KFNX with another special feature from my Phoenix radio show for Antiwar.com.
Hey, one of my favorite guys is on the line with us from Rockville, Maryland. He's just outside of Washington, D.C. It's the inimitable, it's the extraordinarily talented James Bovard. Jim Bovard, good morning, sir.
Hey, Charles, how you doing? It's a great bumper music.
That was really nice, wasn't it? I haven't heard that in a while.
Well, it sets the tone.
Jim wrote so many books that I love best. I don't know which one to. Well, just the most recent one is Attention Deficit Democracy. Great title, great book. I went to your blog, and you mentioned on your blog you're going to be on the show today.
Yes.
And it says the KFNX webpage has a good picture of Charles and a picture of Dr. Laura, who's on this show later on in the day. And it made you wonder what they plugged into her before they took her picture.
Well. Thanks for reading that out loud,
Sorry, man.
I saw that picture, and I said, maybe it's good that it only shows the face and the shoulders, because, I don't know what happened when they did that photo.
Perky, huh?
Well, perky's one word for it, but, I mean, I saw that picture, and I had to wonder.
You do have to wonder. Well, if they weren't sluts, they wouldn't be calling my show now, would they?
There you go. Well,
right.
Hey, it works for me.
Yeah, it works for me. Dr. Laura on the radio from 1 till 3. Should be wagging her finger at somebody today, starting shortly after the show gets underway at 1 o'clock. Somebody, well, if she wasn't a slut, she wouldn't have stuck a screwdriver in her eye now, would she? It's so funny. Hey,
well,
Jim.
Yes.
Oh, what? Go ahead.
No, fire away.
I saw your picture in the perp lineup of perpetrators. Looks like you showed up at one of those Peace March damn things.
Oh yeah, I was at one a few weeks ago, and it was fun to see all the hostility to the government and the hostility towards the Bush administration and their foreign wars and their efforts to start new wars. And there was a nice photo that I got of some guy was carrying a big sign that this was just after Saddam got hanged, and he had a holding of a big sign that showed someone that looked a little bit like George W. hanging from a noose, and it was the sign said, "What's good for the goose." And then I was able to catch that with the Capitol Dome in the background, so I put the title "Bush Swings by Congress" on the photo.
Oh, Jim, you're too. I should tell people where to go see this stuff. It's jimbovard.com /blog is where I like to go to the blog, but it's jimbovard.com /blog, and you can get his stuff. I thought you had a really prescient piece the other day, like you always do, but about Alberto Gonzales. I mean, it's Alberto Gonzales is the sort of the bulwark, and if he goes, and a lot of people recognize this. I heard Buchanan going off at length the other day. They can't let Alberto Gonzales go, because once he goes, that's like the key log in the jam, and everything's going to start tumbling.
I think that's right. I mean, but folks don't realize a major reason why Bush would be devastated by Gonzales going is because Gonzales is keeping the lid on so many other abuses the Bush administration has done. If someone like Patrick Fitzgerald came in as Attorney General and decided to open up the books and to tell people what had really happened, to open the files, I think that we'd see impeachment within 3 or 4 months. Because the torture scandal, I think there's a lot of smoking guns, which would turn up if we had honest access to the government's files.
How do you rate the prospects for Torture Memo Al surviving this little incidental flare-up?
Surviving to the end of the month, or you mean surviving longer?
Longer.
I think he's gone.
Really?
Yeah. Bush seems determined to try to fight this on principle and say, these are honorable men. And I'm just thinking it's not like some Washington speechwriter who's been reading the Mark Antony speech from Julius Caesar. These are honorable men. It's too bad that they stabbed Caesar in the back.
So are they all honorable men?
Yes. I mean, it's so obviously ludicrous, and yet, Bush, maybe nobody's told Bush that his approval rating is no longer 70%.
Yeah.
And that the BS that succeeded in, 03, 04, 05, it's not working now. I think that, Gonzales has almost no friends on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, and that's going to be probably going to settle his fate. But, if if this drags out, it's going to weaken Bush for other fights that he might have coming down the road.
Well, you've hit on it again. I talked to, how come I can't remember? These guys that they formed the American Freedom Agenda the other day, Bruce Fine.
Okay.
And he and
Bob
Barr,
Richard Viguerie
and Richard Viguerie. They started this thing to reclaim some of our civil liberties.
Better late than never.
It's better late than never, but I asked Fine, I said, are you guys only capable of forming an organization to do this when Bush is down around 30 and Cheney's at 18%? I mean, we really needed people to do this when he was at 90.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's nice that Fine has come around on some of these issues, but I mean, if you look back at a lot of his early columns in the War on Terror, I mean, he was taking dreadful positions by and large. Bob Barr has been a lot more consistent. Barr has been critical of the excesses at least since 2003. Richard Viguerie has been good in the last year or two, I guess. It's nice that some of the conservatives are speaking up, but it's kind of like it's not like the war is over, but it's kind of strange.
Yeah, we are in kind of a strange zone. Well, it's like this whole U.S. Attorney's case and the Gonzales case. To me, I don't want to say that it's insignificant because there is a great deal of evidence. And after all, that's why we have investigations, to see where the evidence leads. There's a great deal of evidence.
That's funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know. Okay, in an ideal world, in fiction, in works of fiction.
Yes, thank you.
But even if we were to pursue this to the bitter end and uncover all kinds of cronyism and get a whole lot more Republican congressmen and discover beyond any dispute that the whole firing was implemented as a policy to protect Republican cronyism and so on. Even if we chased it down all the way, to me it still is relatively insignificant compared to all of the deceit and the deceptions and the deaths that have resulted from the war.
I agree. I mean, one thing I was hoping, maybe there'll be more stuff coming out, but with the Scooter Libby trial, there was some stuff on the White House Iraq group, which was doing so much PR and so much smearing of critics. I think if all the files were opened up on that there'd be, I think a lot of people would be shocked, but then again, I guess I thought more people would be shocked by some of the stuff that came out of the Scooter Libby trial. That seems to have faded, but perhaps it's because there are so many other scandals. Something which perhaps you've talked about this, but one thing on the Gonzales stuff, National Journal had a piece last week. It looks like Gonzales shut down a Justice Department investigation into the Bush administration's illegal wiretapping.
Yep.
After Gonzales knew that he would be a focus of the investigation.
Right.
This is so simple obstruction of justice that even a Rush Limbaugh supporter could understand it.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Well, okay. Yeah. That's true. Okay. Well, there I am being an idealist again.
Yes, there you're being an idealist.
But this is potentially a heck of a lot more serious because it looks like Bush may have known that Gonzales was a target at the time that Bush effectively shut down this investigation. And that could be far more trouble for Bush than the firing of the U.S. attorneys.
Yeah. But Murray Wass is the only guy talking about that, besides you and I right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised this didn't kind of go off like a mushroom cloud because this is huge. Murray Wass did a lot of the best work on Scooter Libby early on.
Right.
And that it took a long time for the establishment media to pick up on that, but maybe these guys are strangled by their white gloves. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to see all of those people in the White House Iraq group frog marched out of the White House. I'd like to see a complete investigation into the lies, the marketing of the war from these guys. The one thing I discovered that I had not known during the Scooter Libby trial was that the White House Iraq group, which we have talked about on this show many, many times, that the White House Iraq group was actually run out of the vice president's office.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah, well, he was the mastermind of pushing for the war, and it's kind of amusing that some people are still surprised that Cheney or other top administration officials would openly lie because this has been their style at least since 2002. I mean, I think it was either late 2001 or 2002, where Cheney was making comments implying or directly linking the anthrax letters to Saddam Hussein. They never had any evidence for that. That was just one more, way to frighten the American people to war. There are so many different lies, and yet it's still not acceptable in Washington, D.C. to say that Cheney is a liar, if not a pathological liar. There are standards of etiquette and commentary with the mainstream media, which are just they are a subsidy for political lying.
Yeah, they are.
It makes it so much easier for our rulers to deceive us into submission.
You know what it is? It's worship of power. Because once they're out of office, you can talk about the lies that they've told, and you can call a lie. But the journalists, they worship power beyond all other things. And so while they are power holders to whom they refer, they will not call a lie a lie.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. And it's interesting, some of these journalists are relatively intelligent when they're not writing. And yet you see the type of frauds that they buy into, and the folks don't realize that the media is so deferential. That they just, that they're wearing knee pads 24/7. Some of these prominent folks.
Well, here's an example for us to laugh at, Jim, of Tony Snow. This is also
this is good. This is good. It's going to be good.
This is the new incarnation of you'll remember the limited modified hangout. This is the new incarnation. Listen.
Marlon Spector suggested another version of the deal today, which is, he said, testimony that would be open to the public with a limited number of senators and with a transcript, but no oath.
I don't. Again, our offer is our offer, and we know that Senator Spector is trying to play a constructive role here.
Wait. Is that a no?
It's a no.
But why? You say you're open to compromise. In what way are you indicating?
I didn't say we were open to compromise. I said we opened with a compromise.
Here's our offer. Leave it or leave it.
Well, it is so funny that the Bush team is fighting so hard to not have these people under oath. It's almost as if they're going to be more trustworthy if they have the right to lie. But this is exactly the same deal which Cheney and Bush crafted for their joint testimony before the 9/11 Commission. And I was amazed that folks rolled over for that, because there was no transcript. It wasn't under oath. They were just sitting there, I don't know what was said, but from the summaries I've seen, it sounded like, I hope the 9/11 commissioners had hip boots.
It was Bobsey twins. It was tag team testifying. But it wasn't testifying because they weren't under oath.
Right, and there were several things which some of the 9/11 commissioners said, which indicated that those folks went to the White House with their knee pads, because the level of servility. I mean, Bush and Cheney had made so many false statements about 9/11 at that point, and yet they were still treated like demigods.
Yeah, I tell you. Well, here's a little more from the White House press briefing with Tony Snow.
If subpoenas are issued, is this offer withdrawn?
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see.
No, the offer.
The answer is if they issue subpoenas, the offer is withdrawn.
And then.
Because it means that they will not have responded to the offer. They will have rejected the offer.
Okay, and then, so basically, if they issue subpoenas, there will be no.
I'm just telling you that the moment subpoenas are issued, it means that they've rejected the offer. We have offered everything that gets them the access to all the facts and the truth. If they don't accept the offer, it lifts the veil on some of the motivations, which means that people are less interested in the truth than creating a political spectacle.
You keep saying the Justice Department, the response in these emails of 3,000 pages, unprecedented, is very responsive. Why then is there this gap from mid-November to about December 4th, right before the actual firings? Why is there a gap in emails?
I don't know. Why don't you ask them?
Well, you're the White House, the Justice Department.
I know, but I'm not going to be the fact witness on justice.
You're the one representing that this has been very responsive.
Yeah,
now, when there's a gap,
I've been led to believe that there's a good response for it, but I'm going to let you ask them, because they're going to have the answer.
Was there perhaps any emails about the president in there, and did the president have to sign off on this? Because the question was raised.
The president has no recollection of this ever being raised with him.
Now, Jim, the question, I guess, to me is the press starting to grow a spine?
Well, Bush's approval rating is 29-30%, and it's amazing what will pop up at a time like that. I think that the Bush folks, I wouldn't say that the press is growing a spine, but it is good that they're at least dogging this story somewhat. There was a Washington Post editorial yesterday which was totally appalling, saying, let's move along, nothing to see here. Would have expected to see that in a conservative paper, but some of the press is pushing forward with this. Part of it is that there's a sense that there's a simple paper trail and it'll be fairly easy to prove things. Not a lot of heavy digging, basically, for the White House press corps, which, it's hard to dig when you're wearing white gloves.
Jim Bovard is our guest, JimBovard.com and JimBovard.com/blog. And the latest book is in a series of great books is Attention Deficit Democracy. Okay, Jim, when we continue in a moment, I want something didn't pass muster with you the other day. Something got you a little, I'll have to tell people what it was. It was John Bolton. He's damn proud. I'm damn proud of them dead Lebanese women and children. Damn proud, I tell you. I'm damn proud. We'll talk about that next. 8:55 right now, KFNX News Talk Radio 1100. I'm Charles Goyette. This is the Charles Goyette Show. We've got Tom DeLay on our program on Monday morning. Tom DeLay, Jim.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Oh, that'll be fun. We'll put that one online. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's, I look forward to hearing it.
Hey, we are only really one sworn witness away from blowing this whole administration open, and that could be Alberto Gonzalez's recently departed Chief of Staff, Scooter Sampson.
Yes, I mean, there are a number of folks. I mean, folks are looking at each of these scandals separately, but there's a cumulative effect. With each additional scandal, there are more people who might turn state's evidence. And every time there is a change in these positions, there's a danger that the lids on some of the scandals might shake loose.
Somebody's not going to want to be the fall guy.
Right. And, a lot of folks have forgotten about the torture scandal. I think there's a lot of paper on that, including a secret presidential order that Bush reportedly signed, authorizing some very harsh interrogation methods. And I think that's probably going to become public sometime this year. And that's probably going to make Bush look like he's got a lot of blood directly on his hands.
Speaking of blood on his hands,
yes.
John Bolton's he's damn proud of the blood on our hands.
Yeah, John Bolton gave an interview with BBC yesterday in which he said he was damn proud of how the U.S. government intentionally blocked efforts to achieve a ceasefire last summer when Israel was bombing Beirut and a lot of other villages and cities in Lebanon, killing over 1,000 civilians. And this is apparently near the top of Bolton's resume.
Well, I guess that brings the Charles Goyette Show full circle, because we started off this morning talking about the Christian community and the new sermon on them. It's you may remember the original one was a Sermon on the Mount. This is the Sermon in the Valley. It's kind of inverted, but it's a Sermon in the Valley, and the new doctrine is, "Blessed are the war makers, for they shall spill blood."
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, blessed are the war makers. So, John Bolton's damn proud, women and children dead. We didn't make peace when we could. We made war. We helped them make war. A word from us could have stopped the carnage, and we failed to utter a word, and I'm damn proud.
And not only that, but in mid-July, once Israel started bombing Lebanon, they ran short of weaponry. The U.S. rushed new bombs to them, and even though the Israelis in some cases were violating U.S. law by using those weapons against civilians, it was clear-cut. There were legal violations going on, but it didn't matter because Bush wanted the Israelis to crush Hezbollah, perhaps as a step to a U.S. attack on Iran.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was, this is the first step of our Iran operation. Didn't quite turn out the way they had in mind.
No, it was, lots of people were very disappointed, and it was, but at least Bolton can still hold his head high.
He's damn proud.
Well, I hope he gets what he deserves.
They should frog march him out of the White House with the rest of the pack.
It would be fun to see him under a lengthy deposition. I think he would hold up probably a lot better than Bush does. Bush would. Bush will. But there are so many things he's been involved in. There were so many statements he made about the war in Iraq that were brazenly misleading, or just almost as bloodthirsty as this.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, you're the best. I thank you for your time.
Hey, Charles, thanks so much for having me on, and have fun with my buddy Tom DeLay on Monday.
Oh, I will. JimBovard.com. That's the web address. You can find out about the books. They are all. I'll tell you, if you have somebody that doesn't really understand the background, they want to know what's going on in the country, you give them one of Jim Bovard's books. It is the single best eye-opening tool that we have. It's just any book by Jim Bovard, but like Attention Deficit Democracy is a good place to start. The Bush Betrayal is really good, as are the others. Jim Bovard. All right, that's it for me.
For Antiwar Radio,